The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor of the penthouse suite, crystalline shards glittering like broken promises under the chandelier's light. Chioma Okafor stood frozen in the doorway of her own bedroom, her Hermes Birkin sliding from her trembling fingers as she watched her husband of 15 years, her partner, her confidant, the father of her 3 children, tangled in Egyptian cotton sheets with her younger sister, Adiz. What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from. Chioma. Ibuka's voice cracked as he scrambled to cover himself, his dark skin glistening with guilt and sweat. But it was Adiz's face that truly stopped Chioma's heart, not shame, not remorse, but a flash of something bitter and triumphant before she arranged her features into mock horror. Sister, I can explain, Adiz began, pulling the sheet around her naked body. Chioma raised one perfectly manicured hand, her diamond rings catching the light, rings Ibuka had placed there, promises now turned to poison. Don't. Her voice was ice, each word measured and deadly calm. Don't you dare speak to me. She was Chioma Okafor, founder and CEO of Okafor Holdings, one of Nigeria's most successful real estate empires. At 45, she'd built a fortune worth over $200 million through intelligence, determination, and an unshakable belief in family loyalty. She'd put her husband through business school, funded his failed ventures, raised his children while running an empire. And this was how they repaid her. Baby, please, let me explain, Ibuka pleaded, moving toward her. At 47, he'd grown comfortable in the luxury she provided, his once athletic body now soft from expensive dinners and days spent consulting for her companies, a position she'd created to give him purpose after his 3rd business failure. Explain? Chioma's laugh was sharp enough to cut. Explain how you've been sleeping with my sister under my roof? In my bed? While I was in Abuja closing the deal that will set our children up for life? She turned her gaze to Adiz, who had the audacity to look defiant. And you? I gave you. The rain hammered against the windows of Chioma's private office in the Okafor Holdings headquarters, each drop echoing the pounding of her heart as she stared at the financial reports spread across her mahogany desk. Dawn had broken over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of gray that matched her mood. She hadn't slept, hadn't changed from yesterday's wrinkled suit. She'd spent the night diving into accounts she'd trusted Ibuka to manage, accounts she'd never thought to question. Now she wished she'd questioned everything. Madam, the reports are all confirmed, said Tund Bakar, her lawyer and oldest friend, his usually jovial face grave as he removed his glasses to rub his eyes. At 52, Tund had been with Chioma since her first property deal 20 years ago, watching her rise from a struggling single mother with one rental property to the powerhouse she'd become. It's worse than we thought. Chioma's hands trembled as she lifted the document. Tell me. Over the past 18 months, Ibuka has been siphoning money from the discretionary accounts you gave him access to. Small amounts at first, 50,000 naira here, 100,000 there. Amounts that wouldn't trigger alerts. But it adds up to nearly 47 million naira. Almost $100,000. The number struck her like a physical blow. Where did it go? Tund slid another file across the desk. A company called Ada Luxury Imports. Registered 6 months ago. He paused. It's in Adiz's name. The betrayal cut deeper than the infidelity. This wasn't just about passion or weakness, this was premeditated theft. Emotional manipulation combined with calculated fraud. Her own sister and husband hadn't just betrayed her bed, they'd been robbing her blind, using her money to build their own future together. There's more, Tund continued, his voice heavy. The company has been using your business connections, your reputation, to secure contracts. They've been telling suppliers and clients that Ada Luxury is a subsidiary of Okafor Holdings. They've essentially been stealing your name as well as your money. Chioma stood, pacing to the window that overlooked the Lagos harbor. Container ships, circumstances? Ibuka's voice cracked. Chioma, please. I made mistakes, but I love my children. Don't use them as weapons. I'm not the one who weaponized this family, Chioma said. You did that when you chose to betray every vow you made. Now get out. Before I change my mind about calling the police. As Ibuka stumbled out, Chioma sank into her chair, the weight of it all crashing down. But she couldn't afford to break. Not yet. Her children would be here soon, and they deserved a mother who was strong, who could guide them through this nightmare. Her phone rang again. An unfamiliar number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mrs. Okafor? A woman's voice, nervous. My name is Blessing. I work at First City Bank. I probably shouldn't be calling, but I think you need to know something. Know what? Your sister came in yesterday afternoon. Before whatever happened. She tried to access your personal vault. The one with the original property deeds and your mother's jewelry. She had a key and knew the code. The police station in Ikoyi smelled of stale coffee and desperation. Chioma sat in the stark white room, her lawyer beside her, as Detective Adekunle reviewed the evidence they'd brought. Her children were home with her most trusted security guard, having finally heard the truth from their mother's lips just hours ago. Kelechi had cried silently, Zara had screamed accusations at her father over the phone, and little Chitty had simply asked if they were still going to Disney World for Christmas. The memory made Chioma's chest ache. Mrs. Okafor, Detective Adekunle said, his weathered face grave, what you're describing is serious. Embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy, attempted theft of property. These charges could put your husband and sister in prison for years. That's not why I'm here, Chioma said. I'm here because I need protection. That ministry investigator this morning? His credentials were fake. Tun verified it. Someone sent him to intimidate me, to make me produce those documents so they could be copied or stolen. The detective's eyebrows rose. Did you file a report? What I'm filing now is bigger than one fake investigator. She leaned forward. Detective, they've been planning this for months, maybe longer. The question is, who else is involved? Because my sister and my husband aren't smart enough to pull off something this sophisticated on their own. You think there's someone else? I know there is. The man at the bank with a D's. The anonymous message warning me about the company accounts. Someone is pulling strings behind the scenes. Before the detective could respond, Chioma's phone. The church seemed to close in around Chioma. They weren't just trying to rob her, they were prepared to kill her for it. Why are you telling me this now? Chioma asked. Why not sooner? Tears streamed down Gozi's face. Because yesterday, Chike told me I had to do something. He gave me a bottle, said it was sleeping pills, and told me to put them in your tea, a few each night. Not enough to kill you, he said, just enough to make you sick, confused. He said if I didn't do it, he'd make sure my Emeka had an accident at school. I couldn't do it, madam. So I warned you instead. But now they know. Chike called me this morning, said I'd made a big mistake. As if summoned by his name, Chioma's phone buzzed. An email, no sender name, but the subject line made her blood run cold, we know you know. She opened it. A photo of her children leaving the house that morning, circled in red. And a message, drop the investigation, drop the divorce, or accidents happen. You have 48 hours to decide. Choose wisely, Chioma. You can't protect everyone. Detective Adekunle immediately called for backup, but Chioma's mind was already spinning in a different direction. They were watching her children. They had no idea she'd come to the police. They thought she was vulnerable, scared, alone. An idea formed, dangerous, possibly insane, but potentially brilliant. Detective, she said slowly, what if I gave them exactly what they think they want? Madam, what if Chioma Okafor had an accident? A fatal one. Tun's head snapped up. Chioma, you can't be serious. Think about it. They're waiting for me to fight or fold. They're not expecting me to disappear. If I'm dead, if they think I'm dead, they'll make their move. They'll try to claim everything, and when they do, we'll have them on tape, on record, confessing to everything. You want to fake your own death? Detective Adekunle looked stunned. I want to test everyone around me. See who truly mourns me and who tries to profit. See who protects my children and who tries to use them. My husband, my sister, this Chike, they'll all show their true faces if they think I can't stop them anymore. It's incredibly risky, Tun said. Your children. My children will be protected. I'll tell them the truth, explain why I have to do this. Kelechi is 15, she's smart enough to understand. And when this is over, when we've destroyed these people who tried to destroy us, my children will know I fought for them. That I would do anything to protect them. And if something goes wrong? Tun pressed. If they actually try to hurt your children? Then we'll have police protection in place. She looked at Detective Adekunle. Can you arrange that? Undercover officers watching my house, my children's school. He nodded slowly. It would be unconventional, but given the threat, yes. I can arrange it. But Mrs. Okafor, if we do this, we do it completely. Fake accident scene, death certificate, funeral arrangements. Everyone has to believe it, or they'll know it. The Mercedes crashed through the guardrail on 3rd Mainland Bridge at exactly 11:47 p.m. on a moonless Thursday night, its headlights cutting through the darkness before plunging into the Lagos Lagoon below. Witnesses would later tell police they saw the car swerve suddenly, as if the driver had lost control, before it broke through the barrier and disappeared into the black water with a tremendous splash. By midnight, emergency services had arrived. By 1 a.m., divers had recovered the vehicle. By 3 a.m., Ebuka Okafor was being notified by police that his wife's car had been found submerged, and that no body had been recovered yet, but given the impact and the depth of the water, survival was unlikely. By dawn, all of Lagos was talking about the death of Chioma Okafor, billionaire philanthropist, mother of 3, pillar of the business community. What no one knew, except for 5 people sworn to secrecy, was that Chioma was alive, watching everything unfold from a safe house in Lekki, her death meticulously staged with the help of Detective Adekunle, Tund, and a stunt driver who'd crashed the remote-controlled vehicle with precision timing. Now, as morning broke over Lagos 3 days after her death, Chioma sat before a bank of monitors showing security camera feeds from her home, her office, and various locations around the city. She wore simple clothes, her hair pulled back, no makeup, stripped of all the armor of wealth and status. Just a woman, watching to see who truly loved her and who had been waiting for her to die. "Are you ready for this?" Tund asked quietly. He'd barely left her side since the staged accident, handling all the legal details of her estate while secretly ensuring her assets remained locked and protected. "I've been ready since I saw them in my bed," Chioma said. "Show me the funeral arrangements." On one monitor, her assistant Amaka was coordinating with the same funeral home that had buried her mother 2 years ago. Chioma watched, her heart heavy, as Amaka broke down in genuine tears while selecting flowers. "She doesn't know," Chioma murmured. "She really thinks I'm dead." "Most people do," Detective Adekunle said, joining them. "We've limited the truth to need to know only. Your children, your lawyer, myself, 2 trusted officers, and the stunt driver. That's it. Even your household staff thinks you're gone." "And my children? How are they holding up?" "Kelechi is angry but committed to the plan. Zara keeps crying but she knows why you're doing this." "Chidi." Tund's voice softened. "Chidi is 10. He doesn't fully understand, but he's staying with your cousin Obi, who's keeping him distracted. The public story is that all 3 children are too traumatized to see anyone, which gives us cover." Another monitor showed Ebuka at the Okafor Holdings office, speaking with the company's board of directors. Chioma turned up the volume. "I know this is difficult for everyone, EB. Retrio. Continue." Uka was saying, his face a mask of grief that Chioma knew was practiced in a mirror. "Chioma was the heart of this company. But she would want us to continue. She would want the business she built to thrive. As her husband and the father of her children, I think it's my responsibility to step up and provide leadership during this transition. We're already going to be rich from what we took. That was seed money. When we crack open her estate, we'll be billionaires. Just stay calm, play the grieving sister, and let me handle the legal maneuvering." After Adiz hung up, she stood in the middle of Chioma's office, looking around at the empire her sister had built. For a moment, something like regret crossed her face. Then she straightened her shoulders, put on her sunglasses, and left the apartment, already rehearsing her tears for the funeral. Chioma felt sick. "She's not even sorry. She's standing in my home, planning to rob my children, and she's not even sorry." "Did you expect her to be?" Detective Adekunle asked gently. "People who commit domestic betrayal rarely feel remorse. They justify it, rationalize it, make themselves the victim." "Show me Ebuka's meeting," Chioma said, her voice hard. The monitor switched to show Ebuka in a lawyer's office, not Tund's, but a smaller, scrappier firm known for taking on messy divorce cases. The lawyer, a thin man named Barrister Ojo, was reviewing documents. "The problem, Mr. Okafor, is that you have almost no legal standing. You weren't employed by the company, you held no shares, and from what you've told me, your wife had already initiated divorce proceedings before her death. The prenuptial agreement you signed 15 years ago is ironclad. It states clearly that all business assets remain separate property." "But I'm the father of her children," Ebuka protested. "Surely that counts for something. It counts for child support, which you won't be paying since you have no income. It counts for shared custody, which is now moot since you're the surviving parent. But it doesn't give you rights to her business empire." Ebuka's hands clenched into fists. "There has to be a way. What about challenging the prenup? What if I claimed she coerced me into signing it?" Barrister Ojo looked skeptical. "That was 15 years ago. You'd have to prove undue duress, and given that you were an adult man signing a contract with your own lawyer present, that's nearly impossible. What if there were other factors? What if I had information about her business practices that were less than legal?" The lawyer leaned back, studying Ebuka. "Do you have such information?" "I might. Mr. Okafor, let me be very clear. If you're considering fabricating evidence or making false accusations against your deceased wife, that would be criminal fraud. It would also likely turn public opinion, and more importantly, your children, completely against you." Ebuka stood, agitated. "You don't understand. Chioma controlled everything. Every naira, every decision, every aspect of our lives. She made me feel like nothing. And now that she's dead, everyone expects me to just accept poverty while my children inherit billions? That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Mr. Okafor. But the law is the law. After Ibuka stormed out, Chioma sat in stunned silence. She'd built him up, educated him, given him every opportunity, and all he could think about was what he deserved from her death. He's going to challenge the estate, Tun said. He's going to drag your children through court. Not if we stop him first. Chioma's eyes were cold. Detective, what do we have on the embezzlement? Everything. Bank records, transfer receipts, emails between him and Adiz, the testimony from Gozi, the recorded conversation with Chaik. We could arrest all three of them right now. No, Chioma said. Not yet. I want to see how far they'll go. I want them to incriminate themselves completely before we spring the trap. Her phone buzzed, a secure line only a handful of people knew. She answered to hear Kelechi's voice, tight with tears. Mama? I know you're not. The funeral was held on a Saturday morning at the Cathedral Church of Christ in Lagos, one of the oldest and most prestigious churches in the city. Chioma watched on a monitor as hundreds of people filed in, business associates, employees, friends, rivals, all coming to pay their respects to a woman they believed was dead. She sat in the safe house, a black scarf over her head as if in mourning for herself, and watched her own funeral unfold. The casket was closed, necessarily, since there was no body, and covered in white roses, her favorite. Her children sat in the front row, flanked by family members. Kelechi sat rigid, her face a mask of composure that broke Chioma's heart. Zara openly wept, her shoulders shaking with genuine grief despite knowing the truth. The performance was for everyone watching. And little Chidi sat between them, confused and scared, holding tight to his older sister's hands. Ibuka sat at the end of the row, dressed in black, his face the picture of devastated widowhood. Chioma watched him dab at his eyes with a handkerchief, saw him accept condolences with a trembling voice, and felt nothing but disgust. Adiz sat 2 rows back, playing the grieving sister beautifully. She wore all black, her hair covered in the traditional way, and when the priest asked if anyone wanted to speak, she stood and made her way to the front, her steps slow and heavy. My sister, Adiz began, her voice breaking in all the right places, was the strongest woman I ever knew. Growing up, she was my hero, my protector. When our parents struggled, Chioma worked 3 jobs to help put me through school. When our mother died, Chioma held our family together. Chioma felt Tun tense beside her. She's actually crying. Real tears. Crocodile tears, Chioma said coldly. Watch. But my sister had one flaw, Adiz continued, and Chioma saw the subtle shift in her tone. She never knew how to slow down, how to put family before business. She was so busy building her empire that sometimes she forgot the people who loved her most. I wish I'd told her more often how much I loved her. I wish I'd had more time. The implication was clear to anyone listening. Chioma had been a workaholic who neglected her family. The first seeds of a public narrative that would justify whatever Adiz planned to do next. She's setting up her defense, Detective Adekunle muttered. Making it seem like you pushed everyone away, so when they benefit from your death, it looks like they deserved it. Next, Ibuka stood to speak. His performance was even better than Adiz. Chioma was my everything, he said, his voice thick with emotion. My wife, my partner, the mother of my children. Yes, we had our struggles, what marriage doesn't? But I loved her with everything I had. She was brilliant, driven, sometimes stubborn. He smiled through tears, getting a few sad chuckles from the crowd, but always, always devoted to family. Chioma's hands clenched. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. I promise you, my love, Ibuka said, looking at the casket, I will protect our children. I will make sure your legacy lives on. I will fight for everything you built, and I will make sure our kids never forget the mother who sacrificed so much for them. As he sat down, Chioma saw him exchange a brief glance with Adiz. A nod, barely perceptible. They were coordinating, even here, even at her funeral. Mrs. Adebayo spoke next, and her words were different, honest, raw, angry. I've known Chioma Okafor for 20 years, the older woman said, gripping the podium. I watched her build something from nothing in a world that told her a woman couldn't do it. I watched her face down sexism, discrimination, and betrayal, yes, betrayal, and keep rising. This city will miss her. This country will miss her. And I hope whoever benefits from her death has the decency to honor what she built, rather than trying to tear it down for profit. The church was silent. Mrs. Adebayo's gaze swept across Ibuka and Adiz, and Chioma could see them shift uncomfortably. After the service, the procession moved to the cemetery in Ikoyi, where an empty casket was lowered into the ground. Chioma watched on the monitor as her children threw roses onto the coffin, as Ibuka made a show of almost collapsing with grief, as Adiz supported him, touching him a bit too familiarly, a bit too long. They're not even trying to hide it anymore, Tun said. Look at that. They're practically together in public. Because they think I can't see them. They think they're free. Chioma stood, pacing the small room. How long until the will reading? 2 hours. Everyone's been summoned to my office. And our trap is set? Detective Atakunal nodded. Every room is wired for audio and video. We'll catch everything they say, even when they think they're private. At precisely 2 p.m., Tun's office was filled with the interested parties, Ibuka, Adiz, Chioma's 3 children, Mrs. Adebayo representing the company, and several other family members who'd crawled out of the woodwork hoping for an inheritance. Chioma watched from the safe house as Tun entered, carrying a sealed envelope. Thank you all for coming, Tun said formally. As Chioma Okafor's lawyer and executor of her estate, it's my duty to read her last will and testament. This document was updated just 1 week before her death, and I have certified copies for anyone who wishes to review the details. Ibuka leaned forward. To those listening, her voice said, strong and clear, if you're hearing this, I'm dead. But death doesn't mean I stopped protecting my children or my legacy. I knew betrayal was coming. I saw it in the eyes of people I trusted, people I loved. So I made preparations. Ibuka and Adiz exchanged panicked glances. To Ibuka, you stole from me. 47 million naira, to be precise. I have all the evidence, bank transfers, emails, recorded conversations. I could have had you arrested, but I wanted you to have a chance to redeem yourself. This is that chance. You can walk away now, make your own way in the world, and be a father to our children from a distance. Or you can fight this will, challenge the trust, and force me, even from beyond the grave, to release every piece of evidence to the police, the press, and the public. Choose wisely. Ibuka sank back into his chair, his face ashen. To Adiz, you were my sister. My blood. And you betrayed that for money and a man who was never yours to take. You thought I wouldn't notice the stolen funds, the fake company, the conspiracy. But I notice everything. Ada Luxury Imports is built on fraud and theft. I've already reported it to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. They're investigating now. You can either cooperate and possibly reduce your sentence, or you can fight and spend the next decade in prison. Adiz's face went from shock to fury. She's lying. She has no proof. She has everything, Tun said quietly. I've seen it all. The question is whether you want this to become public or whether you want to disappear quietly. To everyone else in this room, Chioma's voice continued, thank you for coming to my funeral. Thank you for your kind words. But know this, loyalty means nothing after death unless it was real before it. The people who truly loved me will honor my wishes. The people who only pretended will reveal themselves by fighting over my corpse. Choose which one you want to be. The recording ended. Silence filled the office. Then Ibuka exploded. This is insane. She's dead, she can't control us from the grave. I'm going to challenge this will, challenge the trust, and if I have to, I'll take this to the Supreme Court. Those are my children, and they deserve to have a father who can provide for them without begging from some trust fund. Interesting, Tun said, pulling out his phone. Because 20 minutes ago, before you knew the contents of the will, you told your lawyer, Barrister Ojo, wasn't it, that you were prepared to fabricate evidence of Chioma's illegal business practices if it helped your case? We have that conversation recorded. So yes, please, challenge the will. I'd love to present that recording to a judge. Ibuka's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Adiz stood, her composure cracking. You think you're so smart, Tund? You think Chioma thought of everything? She was careless, arrogant. She didn't see us coming, and she won't see what comes next. Is that a threat? Detective Atakunal stepped into the room from where he'd been waiting in the hallway. Because I'd be very careful about making threats against the estate of Chioma Okafor. Who are you? Detective Atakunal, Nigeria Police Force. And I've been investigating your little conspiracy for the past week. Ada Luxury Imports, embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy to commit theft. We have enough to arrest you right now. The only reason we haven't is because we wanted to see how far you'd go. Chika Okonkwo, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, suddenly stood and headed for the door. 2 officers blocked his exit. Mr. Okonkwo, Detective Atakunal said pleasantly, I don't believe you were invited to this will reading. Which makes me wonder why you're here. Unless, of course, you were planning to somehow benefit from Chioma Okafor's death? I'm just a business associate of Adiz, Chike said smoothly. Here for moral support. Really? Because we have recordings of you planning to claim damages from Chioma's estate, to manipulate property records, and, most interestingly, to eliminate obstacles if she fought back. Care to explain what that means? Chike's lawyer mask slipped. I want my lawyer. Chioma stood in the safe house, the note trembling in her hands, every carefully constructed plan crumbling around her. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt genuine fear, not for herself, but for Kelechi, Zara, and Chidi. How? She demanded, whirling on Detective Adekunle. How did he get to them? You said they were protected. I had 2 officers outside the compound, the detective said, already on his phone coordinating a response. Someone must have been inside already. Chioma, we'll find them. Find them? Her voice rose to a shout. A man who planned a 5-year revenge plot has my children, and you're going to find them? He's had weeks to plan this. He knew I wasn't really dead. Tund grabbed her shoulders. Chioma, panic won't help. Think. What does he want? The note says he doesn't want money. Chioma forced herself to breathe, to think like the strategist she'd always been. Chike had worked for her company 5 years ago. She'd fired him for stealing client information, blacklisted him, destroyed his reputation. This wasn't just about money, it was about power, control, revenge. He wants me, she said slowly. He wants me to admit I'm alive, to humiliate myself publicly, to destroy my own reputation the way I destroyed his. Her phone rang. The same unknown number. She answered on speaker. Hello, Chioma. Chike's voice was smooth, confident. Surprised to hear from a dead woman? Yes, I figured out your little performance. I'm many things, but I'm not stupid. The timing of your death right when you discovered our embezzlement? The convenient lack of a body? Please. I've been watching you watch us for days. Where are my children? Safe. For now. They're scared, confused about why their mother would fake her own death and put them through hell, but physically unharmed. Kelechi keeps insisting you're really dead, by the way. She's a good liar. Wonder where she learned that? Chioma's hands clenched. What do you want? I want what you took from me 5 years ago. My reputation, my career, my future. You blacklisted me, Chioma. You made sure no major firm in Lagos would touch me. Do you know what that did to my life? To my family? You stole from my company. You tried to sabotage my deals. I tried to compete with you. Chike's voice rose. I saw an opportunity to start my own firm using connections I'd built. Yes, I took some client information I'd personally helped develop. Was that theft, or was that taking what was mine? But you couldn't stand the competition. You couldn't stand that someone you considered beneath you might actually succeed. So you spent 5 years plotting revenge by using my sister and husband? I spent 5 years surviving in a city where Chioma Okafor had destroyed my name. Do you know what I did to rebuild? The compromises I made? The humiliation I endured? And then I met Adiz at a networking event, bitter and jealous of her perfect sister. And I met Ibuka at a bar, drunk and complaining about his controlling wife. And I thought, why not? Why not use your own family to take everything from you the way you took everything from me? This is about ego. About your hurt pride. This is about justice. Chike shouted. You powerful people, you think you can destroy lives without consequences. You think you're untouchable. Well, guess what, Chioma? Even from the grave, you're not untouchable. Your children are proof of that. Detective Adekunle was already tracing the call. Chioma kept Chike talking. What do you want? I'll give you money, properties, whatever you need. Just don't hurt my children. I don't want your money. I want you to do what I had to do, lose everything. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to hold a press conference. You're going to admit you faked your death to manipulate your family and business rivals. You're going to admit that your empire was built on ruthless, sometimes illegal, business practices. You're going to destroy your own reputation so thoroughly that no one will ever trust the Okafor name again. That's insane. Even if I do that, it doesn't help you. But it does. Because when your reputation is ashes, when the government starts investigating your business practices, when clients flee and investors panic, I'll be there to pick up the pieces. I'll buy your companies for cents on the dollar. I'll rebuild my empire on the ruins of yours. That's justice, Chioma. That's symmetry. And my children? Once you've completed your public humiliation, once I'm satisfied that you've lost everything, I'll tell you where they are. But here's the thing, you have 24 hours. After that, I start making your children uncomfortable. Nothing permanent at first, just scared. But each hour you delay, things get worse for them. The call ended. Chioma immediately looked at Detective Adekunle. Did you trace it? He was moving. Used multiple burner phones, probably tossing them as he goes. But I have officers canvassing every location where the call pinged. We'll find him. In 24 hours? Chioma's voice broke. He has my babies. 10-year-old Chidi is probably terrified. Zara cries if she sees a spider. Kelechi will try to protect them, but she's 15. They're children. Mrs. Adebayo, who'd stayed through the chaos, spoke quietly. Chioma, you built your empire by being smarter than everyone else. Don't give him what he wants. There has to be another way. There isn't. Chioma turned on her. He has my children. I'll burn every building I own. Retrio. Continue. I'll destroy every reputation I've built. I'll crawl on my knees through Legos because if Chike wants to play a game of mutually assured destruction, I'm going to show him what that really means. He wants me to destroy my reputation? Fine. But I'm taking his down with me. And when we're both in ruins, we'll see who's still standing. Mrs. Adebayo stepped forward. Chioma, I know a man. He's not exactly legal, but he's very good at finding people. Back when my own daughter was taken by kidnappers 15 years ago, he's the one who found her. The police tried for days. He found her in 6 hours. Call him. Now. Within 30 minutes, a man named Taiwo arrived at the safe house. He was nondescript, middle-aged, the kind of person you'd pass on the street without a second glance. But his eyes were sharp, calculating. Mrs. Okafor, he said, nodding respectfully. Mrs. Adebayo explained the situation. I'll need everything, recent photos of your children, any tracking devices they might have on them, details about the kidnapper. My daughter Zara has a smartwatch, Chioma said suddenly. I gave it to her for her birthday. It has GPS tracking. I use it to know when she gets to school safely. Is it connected to your phone? Chioma grabbed her phone, opening the family tracking app she'd set up. There, a blinking dot showing Zara's location. It was moving, somewhere in the Apapa area of Lagos, near the ports. Got her, Taiwo said, already pulling up maps on his tablet. Apapa. That's industrial, lots of abandoned warehouses. Perfect place to hide hostages. The watch's GPS isn't precise enough to pinpoint the exact building, but it narrows it down to maybe a dozen locations. Then we search all dozen, Detective Adekunle said. We can't just storm in, Taiwo cautioned. If Chike sees police coming, he might panic. Might hurt the children to use them as bargaining chips. This needs to be surgical. Precise. What do you suggest? Chioma asked. Give him what he wants, partially. Schedule a press conference for tomorrow morning. That gives him hope, makes him think he's won. He'll relax his guard. Meanwhile, I'll do reconnaissance tonight, identify which warehouse they're in. Once I know the exact location, we can coordinate a rescue. And if something goes wrong? Chioma's voice wavered. If he realizes it's a trap? That's why you have to sell the press conference, Taiwo said. Make it real enough that he believes you're breaking. Show weakness. Show desperation. Make him think he's won. Chioma looked around at the assembled group, Detective Adekunle, Tund, Mrs. Adebayo, Taiwo. People who, unlike her family, had proven their loyalty when it mattered most. All right, she said. Let's plan a press conference. And let's get my children back. 4 hours later, Chioma sat in front of a camera, preparing to record a message that would be sent to every major media outlet in Nigeria. She dressed simply, her hair unstyled, her face deliberately tired and tear-streaked. She looked like a woman at the end of her rope. Because in many ways, she was. My name is Chioma Okafor, she began, her voice breaking in all the right places. And I'm alive. 1 week ago, I faked my own death. I staged a car accident, manipulated my family and friends, and lied to everyone who trusted me. I did this because I discovered my husband and sister were stealing from me, and in my anger, I wanted revenge. She paused, letting tears fall naturally. But my revenge has cost me everything. My husband and sister are in jail. My reputation is destroyed. And worst of all, my children have been taken by someone seeking vengeance for my past sins. I'm told that if I don't confess publicly to my crimes, to the ruthless business practices, the people I've crushed, the lives I've destroyed in pursuit of wealth, my children will be hurt. Her voice dropped to a whisper. So here I am. Confessing. Yes, I've bent rules. Yes, I've been ruthless. Yes, I've destroyed competitors who got in my way. I've prioritized business over family, profit over people. And now I'm paying the price. But please, please, whoever has my children, I'm begging you. I've done what you asked. I've humiliated myself. Just tell me where they are. Just give them back to me. She ended the recording and immediately sent it to Chike's number with a message, you win. I'll release this tomorrow at 9 a.m. Now where are my children? His response came within minutes, good girl. Keep your phone on. Once the video goes public and I'm satisfied you've destroyed yourself completely, I'll send you the location. Don't even think about trying to find them before then. I'm watching. But while Chioma was recording her confession, Taiwo was already in Apapa, using night vision equipment to survey abandoned warehouses. It took him 3 hours of careful reconnaissance, but finally he spotted movement in a building near the docks, 2 men standing guard outside, and through a grimy window, 3 small figures sitting on the floor. He called Chioma. Found them. Building 47, old textile warehouse near Tin Can Island port. 2 armed guards outside, possibly more inside. They have automatic weapons, which means they're taking this seriously. Can you get them out? Not alone. I need backup. Professional backup. He paused. Mrs. Okafor, I know some people. Former military. They can extract your children safely, but it won't be cheap, and it might get messy. I don't care about the cost. I don't care about messy. I care about getting my babies out alive. Then I'll make the calls. Be ready to move at 5 a.m., before dawn. That's when guards are most tired, most likely to make mistakes. After hanging up, "You're alive," Kelechi whispered. I knew it. I knew you couldn't really be dead. I'm so sorry, Chioma said, kissing each of their faces. I'm so sorry I put you through this. I thought I was protecting you, but I almost lost you. I'm so sorry. Zara clung to her neck. We heard gunshots. We thought. Shoo. It's over. You're safe now. But it wasn't over. Detective Adekunle was on his phone, his face grim. He approached Chioma carefully. Chioma, Chike wasn't here. These were just hired guards, local criminals he paid to watch the children. They're already talking, trying to reduce their sentences. They say Chike never planned to be here personally. He's been running the entire operation remotely. Then where is he? According to the guards, he left the country 3 hours ago. Private plane to Dubai. He was planning to watch your press conference from international safety, then use the video to permanently destroy your reputation even after releasing the children. He never intended to face consequences. Chioma felt rage bubble up, hot and consuming. After everything, after terrorizing her children, destroying her family, nearly killing her, Chike was going to escape? No, she said flatly. That's not how this ends. She pulled out her phone and made a call. It was answered after 2 rings. Amara? Chioma said. It's Chioma Okafor. Yes, I'm alive, it's a long story. But I need a favor. That connection you have at Interpol? I need an international warrant issued for Chike Okonkwo. Kidnapping, fraud, attempted murder. And I need it now. Yes, I'll owe you. Thank you. She hung up and made another call. Mr. Hassan? This is Chioma Okafor from Lagos. I know your family has significant business interests in Dubai. I need information on a man who just landed there, Chike Okonkwo. Yes, I know it's a big favor. I'm prepared to invest in your real estate development project. The full 50 million you were looking for. Consider it done. Thank you. Tund watched with something like awe. Even now, even after everything, you're still 10 steps ahead. He tried to take my children, Chioma said simply. I don't forgive that. Ever. By noon, Chike Okonkwo was arrested at Dubai International Airport on an Interpol warrant. By evening, he was being extradited back to Nigeria to face multiple charges. And by nightfall, Chioma's confession video had been deleted before ever being released publicly. Instead, she held a different press conference, this one live, with her children beside her. My name is Chioma Okafor, she began, standing tall and composed. Last week, I faked my own death to expose a conspiracy against my family. What I discovered was worse than I imagined: embezzlement by my husband and sister, fraud, and ultimately kidnapping of my children by a man seeking revenge. But I also discovered who I could truly trust. She gestured to Mrs. Adebayo, Tund, and Detective Adekunle standing behind her. These people, when they thought I was dead, honored my wishes and protected my children. Meanwhile, the family I trusted betrayed me for money. The cameras flashed as she continued. I'm not perfect. I've been ruthless in business. I've made enemies. But I've never stolen, never defrauded, never hurt innocent people. And I certainly never kidnapped children. Those crimes belong to my estranged husband, my sister, and a former employee who couldn't accept the consequences of his own actions. Mrs. Okafor, a reporter shouted. Was faking your death legal? Probably not, Chioma admitted. But neither was stealing 47 million naira from me. Neither was kidnapping my children. Sometimes, to catch criminals, you have to think like one. And I'm not sorry I did what was necessary to expose them and save my family. What happens now? Chioma looked at her children, then back at the cameras. Now? Now I rebuild. Not just my business, but my family. Real family, built on trust and love, not blood and obligation. And I teach my children that loyalty must be earned, not assumed. That family isn't who you're born to, but who stands beside you when everything falls apart. She ended the press conference and took her children home, Not to the penthouse that had been violated, but to a new home, a fresh start. That night, as she tucked Chitty into bed, he looked up at her with his gap-toothed smile. "Mama, are you really not going to die?" "Not for a very long time, baby. I promise." "Good. Because I missed you. Even when I thought you were dead, I missed you." Chioma kissed his forehead, tears streaming down her face. "I missed you too. All of you. More than you'll ever know." As she left his room, she found Kelechi waiting in the hallway. "Mama, I need to ask you something." "Dad, is he really going to prison?" "Probably. For a while, yes." "And Auntie Adiz?" "Her too." Kelechi nodded slowly. "I know I should feel sad. But mostly I just feel angry. And kind of relieved." Does that? 3 months after the kidnapping, life had begun to settle into a new rhythm. Chioma had moved her family to a new estate in Banana Island, complete with state-of-the-art security systems and round-the-clock guards. Ibuka and Adiz had both been convicted, Ibuka receiving 7 years for embezzlement and conspiracy, Adiz receiving 5 years for fraud and conspiracy. Chike Okonkwo faced 25 years for kidnapping, attempted extortion, and a litany of other charges. Justice, it seemed, had been served. But Chioma couldn't forget that final message. I wasn't working alone. She'd hired private investigators, had Detective Adekunle looking into every associate Chike had ever had, but they'd found nothing. The message had been sent from a burner phone that had never been used again. No fingerprints, no leads, just a lingering threat that kept Chioma awake at night. On a Tuesday morning, she sat in her newly renovated office at Okafor Holdings, reviewing contracts. Her business had actually grown in the aftermath of the scandal. Her honesty about her ordeal, her willingness to expose family corruption, had earned her a reputation for integrity that brought in new clients. The board had voted unanimously to keep her as CEO, and Mrs. Adebayo had officially retired, passing her shares to Chioma's Children's Trust. Madam, Amaka, her assistant, knocked on the door. "You have a visitor. She says it's urgent and personal." "Who is it?" "She wouldn't give her name. But she said to tell you she's family." Chioma's blood ran cold. After everything, the word family had become almost toxic. "Send her in. But stay close." The woman who entered wasn't anyone Chioma expected. She was younger, maybe early 30s, dressed in professional attire, her hair in neat braids. She looked vaguely familiar, but Chioma couldn't place her. "Mrs. Okafor," the woman said, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly. "My name is Chioma Okonkwo. I'm Chike's younger sister." Chioma stood immediately, her hand moving toward the panic button under her desk. "Get out. Now. Or I'll have security. Please." Chioma held up her hands. "I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to apologize. And to warn you." "Warn me about what?" "About our father. About why Chike really did what he did." Chioma's eyes filled with tears. "Mrs. Okafor, I didn't know what my brother was planning. I swear to you, I had no idea until after he was arrested. But when I found out, I started digging into his communications, his finances. And I discovered something that terrified me." "What are you talking about?" Chioma pulled a folder from her bag and placed it on Chioma's desk. "My father, Chief Okonkwo, was your business rival 20 years ago. You might not remember him, you were just starting out, and he was already established. You outbid him on the Victoria Garden City contract, the one that made your fortune. That loss bankrupted him. He lost everything, had a stroke from the stress, and spent the last 5 years of his life paralyzed and bitter, making Chike promise to destroy you." Chioma's mind raced back 2 decades. She remembered the contract, remembered the ruthless bidding war, but she'd never known the name of the man she'd beaten. I never meant to." "I know," Chioma said quickly. "That's business. That's how Lagos works. But my father, he made it personal. He spent his last years filling Chike's head with poison, teaching him to hate you, to blame you for our family's poverty. After Dad died, Chike became obsessed. He got himself hired at your company just to get close to you, to find weaknesses. I know all this. Your brother confessed to it during his trial. But what he didn't confess, what I found in his apartment after his arrest, is that he had a partner. Someone who funded his revenge plan, who helped him recruit your sister and husband. Someone who wants you destroyed even more than Chike did." Chioma sat down heavily. "Who?" Chioma opened the folder. Inside were bank statements showing large transfers to Chike from an offshore account. Emails discussing the conspiracy. And photographs, dozens of photographs of Chioma, her children, her properties, taken over years. "The account belongs to a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands," Chioma explained. "But I traced it back. Mrs. Okafor, the person funding all of this, the person who spent 5 years helping my brother plan your destruction, is your husband's brother. Pastor David Okafor. The name hit Chioma like a physical blow. Pastor David. Ebuka's older brother, the celebrated minister who ran one of Lagos's largest megachurches. The man who'd officiated her wedding, baptized her children, counseled her through difficult times. The man she'd trusted implicitly. That's impossible, Chioma whispered. David is a man of God. He's devoted his life to the church. Why would he? Because you're the reason his church is successful, Chioma said bluntly. Your donations, your influence, your connections, you've given millions to his ministry over the years. But it's always been in your name, under your control. And according to these emails, Pastor David has been embezzling from the church, using donations for personal expenses. He's been funding a lavish lifestyle while preaching prosperity gospel. She pulled out more documents. He was terrified you'd eventually audit the church finances and discover what he'd been doing. So he partnered with Chike, using my brother's vendetta as cover. The plan was to destroy you financially and legally, discredit you so thoroughly that even if you discovered the church embezzlement, no one would believe you. Then he could blame it all on you, say you'd been stealing from the church, and use your disgrace to grow his own power. Chioma felt the room spin. The children. The kidnapping. Was David involved in that? According to the emails, no. That was all Chike. David wanted financial ruin, not violence. When Chike escalated to kidnapping, David panicked and cut ties. But Mrs. Okafor, he's still out there. He's still preaching. And he's still embezzling. If you don't stop him, he'll find another way to destroy you. Why are you telling me this? Your brother is in prison because of me. Chioma's face hardened. My brother is in prison because he committed crimes. Because he let our father's bitterness poison him. But I'm not my brother. I work at a bank, Mrs. Okafor. I've built my own life, my own reputation. And I won't let what's left of my family be destroyed by revenge and fraud. Pastor David needs to be stopped. And if that helps you, then maybe some good can come from all this horror. After Chioma left, Chioma sat alone in her office, the evidence spread before her. Pastor David. The man who'd held her hand through her mother's funeral. Who'd prayed over her children. Who'd counseled her about forgiveness and faith. All while plotting her destruction. She called Detective Adikunal immediately. I need you to investigate Pastor David Okafor of Glorious Destiny Ministries. Financial fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. I have evidence, but I need it verified by authorities. The famous pastor? Chioma, this is going to be massive. If we go after him and we're wrong. We're not wrong. I have bank statements, emails, everything. But detective, we need to be careful. He has thousands of followers. If we raid his church or arrest him publicly, there could be riots. Then what do you suggest? Chioma thought carefully. She'd learned hard lessons about revenge and public humiliation. Going after David the way she'd initially planned to destroy Ebuka and Adiz would only hurt the innocent people in his congregation, people who genuinely believed in his ministry. I'll confront him privately first. Give him a chance to confess and return what he stole. If he refuses, then we go public. Chioma, that's dangerous. If he's desperate, I'll bring security. And you. But I need to look him in the eye and ask him why. I need to understand how someone I trusted could betray me like this. 2 days later, Chioma arranged to meet Pastor David at his church office, claiming she wanted to discuss a large donation. She brought Tund, Detective Adikunal in plain clothes, and 2 security guards who waited outside. Pastor David greeted her with his trademark warm smile, arms outstretched for a hug. At 55, he was handsome in his pastoral robes, his voice smooth and comforting, the voice of a man who'd spent decades perfecting the art of being trusted. Sister Chioma. Praise God. We've been praying for you and the children ever since that terrible ordeal. How are you healing? Chioma didn't hug him. She sat down and placed Chioma's folder on his desk. I'm healing by learning who my real enemies are. Pastor David's smile faltered. I don't understand. Open the folder. He did, slowly. As he saw the bank statements, the emails, the evidence of his collusion with Chike Okonkwo, his face went pale. This isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like you spent 5 years helping a criminal destroy me while embezzling from your own church. It looks like you used your position as a man of God to betray not just me, but thousands of people who trusted you. Chioma, please, let me explain. Explain how you officiated my wedding while planning to destroy my marriage? Explain how you baptized my children while helping someone who would later kidnap them? Please, Pastor, I'm listening. David's composure crumbled. He slumped in his chair, suddenly looking much older. I never meant for it to go that far. The kidnapping, I had nothing to do with that. When Chike told me what he'd done, I was horrified. But the embezzlement? The conspiracy? You were fine with that? I was desperate. David's voice rose. Do you know what it's like living in your shadow, Chioma? My younger brother's wife, more successful than I'll ever be? I built that church from nothing, but everyone only came because of your donations, your endorsements. You made me look small. So you stole from God's people to make yourself feel big? I borrowed. I was planning to pay it back. With what money? The church is millions in debt because of your theft. You've been paying for luxury cars, expensive suits, a second apartment for your mistress. Yes, I found out about her too, all while preaching about sacrificial giving to people who can barely afford their rent. David's face flushed with shame. What do you want from me? I want you to confess. Publicly. I want you to return every naira you stole. I want you to step down from the church and face legal consequences. And I want you to apologize to your brother, to my children, and to every person you've defrauded. If I do that, I'll lose everything. My reputation, my ministry, my freedom. You should have thought about that before you allied yourself with a kidnapper. Chioma stood. You have 24 hours to decide. Either you confess voluntarily, or I release this evidence to the press, the police, and your congregation. Either way, the truth comes out. But if you do it voluntarily, if you show genuine remorse, maybe, there's a chance for redemption. She left him sitting in his office, his head in his hands. The next day, Pastor David called an emergency church service. Chioma attended, sitting in the back with her children, watching as the man walked onto the stage without his usual dramatic entrance, without his confident smile. Brothers and sisters, he began, his voice breaking, I have sinned against God and against you. For 5 years, I have been stealing from this ministry. I have been living a lie, preaching prosperity while hoarding wealth. I have betrayed your trust, betrayed my calling, and betrayed the God I claim to serve. The congregation erupted in shocked murmurs. Some people stood to leave. Others wept. I don't expect forgiveness, David continued. I don't deserve it. But I'm here to confess publicly and to tell you that I'm stepping down immediately. I'm returning to the church every asset I purchased with stolen funds. And I'm turning myself in to the authorities for embezzlement and fraud. He looked directly at Chioma in the back row. And I want to apologize specifically to my sister-in-law, Chioma Okafor, and her children. I conspired against her, helped plan her destruction, and for that, I will spend the rest of my life seeking forgiveness, from her, from you, and from God. As police officers entered the church to take David into custody, Chioma felt an unexpected emotion, pity. This man had thrown away everything, his calling, his reputation, his freedom, for greed and jealousy. But she also felt something else, relief. The final enemy had been exposed. The last threat neutralized. That evening, as she sat with her children in their new home, Kelechi asked the question that had been on all their minds. Mama, is it finally over? Can we finally just be a normal family? Chioma looked at her 3 children, scarred by betrayal, traumatized by kidnapping, forced to grow up too fast, and made a decision. Yes, she said firmly. It's over. No more revenge, no more conspiracies, no more looking over our shoulders. From now on, we focus on healing. On building something better. But what about Dad? Zara asked quietly. And Auntie Adiz? Will we ever see them again? That's up to you. When you're ready, if you want to visit them in prison, I'll take you. Forgiveness is possible, even after betrayal. But it has to be on your terms, in your time. No one gets to force you to forgive people who hurt you. And the company? Sonnet 4.5. Kelechi asked. Are you going to keep running it? For now. But you know what I realized through all of this? The company, the money, the success, none of it matters if I don't have you 3. So yes, I'll keep building Okafor Holdings. But not at the expense of being your mother. Not anymore. Chidi, who'd been quiet through the conversation, suddenly spoke up. Mama, when I grow up, can I work with you? Can we build things together? Chioma pulled him into her lap, tears streaming down her face. Oh, my baby. We'll build anything you want. Together. 6 months later, Chioma stood before the Lagos Business Council, accepting their Entrepreneur of the Year award. But this time, when she gave her acceptance speech, it wasn't about profits or properties or power. This year taught me that success is meaningless without integrity, she said to the assembled business leaders. That wealth is worthless without trust. That the only legacy that matters is the one we leave in the hearts of people we love. She looked out at the audience and saw Mrs. Adebayo, tears in her eyes. Saw Tund, who'd never wavered in his support. Saw Detective Adekunle, who'd gone above and beyond to save her children. Saw Neoma Okonkwo, who'd chosen truth over family loyalty. And in the front row, she saw Kelechi, Zara, and Chidi, dressed in their finest, smiling at their mother with pride and love. I built an empire, Chioma continued, but I almost lost the only thing that truly mattered, my family. Not the family I was born into, but the family I chose. The people who stood by me when I had nothing to offer but trouble and danger. Those are the relationships worth more than all the money in the world. After the ceremony, as she walked out with her children, a reporter stopped her. Mrs. Okafor, one last question. After everything you've been through, do you have any regrets? Chioma thought about the question carefully. Did she regret faking her death? Exposing her family's betrayal? Forcing her children through trauma to reveal the truth? I regret trusting people based on blood rather than character, she said finally. I regret waiting so long to see the truth. But I don't regret fighting for my children. I don't regret exposing corruption. And I don't regret learning that sometimes, the family you build is stronger than the family you're born into. And your husband and sister? Do you hate them? No, Chioma said, surprising herself with the truth. I don't hate them. I pity them. They had everything, love, family, security, and they threw it away for money. That's not just betray. Retrio. Continue. Al. That's tragedy. But their choices aren't my burden to carry anymore. I've forgiven them, not because they deserve it, but because my children and I deserve peace. As they drove home that night, past the glittering lights of Lagos, Chioma reflected on how far they'd come. Ibuka would be eligible for parole in 4 years. Adiz in 3. Pastor David had received 10 years but was cooperating fully, helping authorities recover the stolen church funds. Chike would likely spend the next 2 decades in prison. The empire she'd built was still standing, stronger, actually, now that it was built on truth rather than secrets. Her children were healing, going to therapy, learning that betrayal doesn't define you, but how you respond to it does. And Chioma herself? She was learning to trust again. Carefully, slowly, but genuinely. 3 weeks later, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived from Ikoyi prison, addressed to Chioma in Adiz's handwriting. For a moment, she considered throwing it away unread. But Kelechi, who'd been watching her mother stare at the envelope, spoke up. Mama, maybe you should read it. Maybe she's sorry. Chioma opened the letter. Adiz's words were shaky, written on prison stationery. Dear Chioma, I don't expect you to read this. I don't deserve your attention or your forgiveness. But I need to say some things, even if you never respond. I was jealous of you my entire life. When we were children, you were smarter, prettier, more driven. Mama always said, be more like Chioma. When you became successful, I told myself you were just lucky. When you helped me, I told myself you were just showing off. I twisted every kindness into an insult because I couldn't bear to admit that you were simply better. Chike didn't manipulate me. I let myself be manipulated because it gave me an excuse to hurt you. I wanted to believe you'd wronged me somehow, that I deserved what you'd built. But the truth is, you earned everything through hard work while I was waiting for handouts. And when you caught me with Ibuka, part of me was almost relieved. Finally, you'd see that I could take something from you. But I didn't take anything, did I? I just destroyed it. Destroyed our family, destroyed your trust, destroyed the memory of Mama who would be so ashamed of what I've become. I'm writing this because my cellmate told me about a program here, education, counseling, learning trades. For the first time in my life, I'm building something myself, not waiting for someone to give it to me. It's small and humble and nothing like your empire. But it's mine. I don't know if you'll ever speak to me again. I don't know if I deserve it. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. Not because I'm in prison, but because I finally understand what I threw away. I had a sister who would have given me anything. Instead, I tried to take everything. I hope your children are okay. I hope they never remember their aunt as the woman who betrayed them. And I hope someday, even if you never forgive me, you can at least forget me and find peace. Your sister, Adiz. Chioma read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know if the remorse was genuine or just prison regret. She didn't know if Adiz would remain changed once released. But she knew one thing, holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. She wrote back. Adiz, I read your letter. Thank you for your honesty. I won't say I forgive you yet. Forgiveness isn't a light switch, it's a process. But I will say this, I'm willing to see who you become, not just remember who you were. If you're truly changing, truly growing, then maybe someday we can rebuild something. Not what we had, that's gone forever, but something new, something honest. Focus on your rehabilitation. Become someone Mama would be proud of. And when you're released, if you've truly changed, we'll talk. The children ask about you sometimes. When they're ready, I'll bring them to visit. Not for you, for them. So they can see that even after betrayal, growth is possible. Chioma. That night, as Chioma tucked Chidi into bed, he asked her a question that had clearly been bothering him. Mama, if someone hurts you really bad, do you have to forgive them? No, baby. Forgiveness is a gift, not an obligation. But you know what? Holding on to hate hurts you more than it hurts them. So you have to decide, do you want to be free, or do you want to be right? Can't you be both? Chioma smiled. Sometimes. But mostly, you have to choose. And I'm choosing to be free. As the months passed, life continued to heal. Zara started dancing again, performing in her school's recital with a confidence that had been shattered but was slowly rebuilding. Kelechi applied to universities abroad, talking about studying business and coming back to help run the company someday, but on her own terms, with her own ideas. And Chidi, resilient as only children can be, seemed to bounce back fastest of all, though his therapist warned that trauma could resurface in unexpected ways. Chioma herself started dating, carefully, slowly. A professor at Lagos Business School, a widower with 2 grown children, someone who'd built his own life and didn't need anything from her except companionship. It was refreshing, being wanted for herself rather than her money. 1 year after her staged death, Chioma held a small private ceremony at her mother's grave. She brought her children, Tund, Mrs. Adebayo, and surprisingly, Chioma Okafor, who'd become an unlikely friend. Mama, Chioma said, kneeling by the headstone, I'm sorry I let things get so bad. I'm sorry I didn't see the betrayal coming. But I promise you, I've learned. I've learned that family is who stands with you, not who shares your blood. I've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And I've learned that the empire you helped me start to build, it's only worth something if I have people I love to share it with. Kelechi placed flowers on the grave. Grandma, we're okay. Mama saved us. She always saves us. As they walked back to the car, Chioma's phone rang. It was the prison, informing her that Ibuka had requested a visit. He wanted to see his children. Chioma looked at Kelechi, Zara, and Chidi. Your father wants to see you. It's your choice. All of yours. I won't force you either way. The children looked at each other. Finally, Kelechi spoke for all of them. We'll go. Not because we forgive him yet. But because you taught us that even people who hurt us are still people. And maybe if we see him trying to change, it'll help us heal too. 2 weeks later, Chioma sat in a prison visiting room, watching her children talk to their father through a glass partition. Ibuka looked smaller somehow, diminished by his orange jumpsuit and the consequences of his choices. But when he saw his children, his eyes filled with genuine tears. I'm so sorry, he kept saying. I'm so sorry. Chioma watched from across the room, giving them privacy but staying close enough to protect them if needed. This was healing, she realized. Not forgetting, not pretending the betrayal never happened, but acknowledging it and choosing how to move forward. After the visit, as they drove home, Zara said something that surprised everyone. He looked sad. Really sad. Not like he was pretending. People can be genuinely sorry and still have to face consequences, Chioma explained. That's what accountability means. Dad is sorry, and he's also serving time for what he did. Both things can be true. Do you think you'll ever get back together? Chidi asked innocently. No, baby. Some broken things can't be fixed. But that doesn't mean we can't all eventually find peace. Your father will always be your father. But he won't be my husband again. And that's okay. That evening, as Chioma sat on her balcony overlooking the Lagos skyline, Tund called. I wanted you to be the first to know, he said. Pastor David's case went to trial today. He pled guilty to all charges. The judge gave him 7 years, reduced from 10 because of his cooperation and restitution efforts. He's already paid back 4 million naira to the church. Good, Chioma said simply. I hope he uses his time inside to genuinely find the faith he claimed to have. And there's more news. Chike filed an appeal. Claims his trial was unfair, that you manipulated evidence. It's going nowhere, but his lawyer is making noise. Chioma sighed. Let him appeal. Let him spend his prison time fighting battles he can't win. I'm done letting that man take up space in my head. You sound different, Tund observed. Lighter. I am. I've spent a year carrying the weight of betrayal, revenge, and anger. I'm tired, Tund. Tired of fighting. I just want to build something good with my children and move forward. You deserve that. You've earned it. After hanging up, Chioma looked at her reflection in the glass door. She saw a woman who'd been tested by fire and emerged stronger. Not unscathed, she had scars, visible and invisible, but stronger. Her empire stood. Her children were healing. Her enemies had faced justice. And she had learned the most valuable lesson of all, that true wealth isn't measured in naira or properties, but in the people who love you for who you are, not what you have. As she went inside to join her children for dinner, a simple meal of jollof rice and chicken, everyone laughing about Chidi's school play disaster, Chioma realized something profound. She'd spent 15 years building an empire, 1 week destroying it to save her family, and 1 year rebuilding something better. Not just a business empire, but an empire of trust, of chosen family, of hard-won wisdom. And this empire? This one was truly worth fighting for. 5 years later, on the anniversary of her staged death, Chioma would stand before Lagos Business School's graduating class and tell them her story. Not the sanitized version, but the real one: betrayal, revenge, kidnapping, and all. "I pretended to be dead to test my family's loyalty," she would say to the eager young faces. "And I learned that the family I was testing wasn't worth my loyalty in the first place. But I also learned who my real family was, the people who honored me even when they thought I was gone, who protected my children, who stood by truth even when it was costly. So here's my advice to you as you start your careers: build your empire, yes. Chase success, absolutely. But never forget that the only empire worth having is one built on integrity, surrounded by people who love you for who you are, not what you can give them. Because betrayal will come, in business, in family, maybe in both. And when it does, you'll need people you can trust. Not people who share your blood, but people who share your values. And one more thing: forgiveness is possible, but it's not mandatory. Protect yourself. Set boundaries. And never let anyone convince you that family loyalty means tolerating abuse, theft, or betrayal. Real family earns loyalty through actions, not demands it through guilt." The graduating class would give her a standing ovation. And among them, in the front row, would sit Chioma Okafor, 20 years old, confident, brilliant, preparing to join her mother's company, but on her own terms, with her own vision. Because that's what Chioma had built, in the end. Not just a business for her children to inherit, but a legacy of resilience, of choosing truth over comfort, of building family through loyalty rather than obligation. And as mother and daughter embraced after the speech, Chioma knew, this was what victory looked like. Not revenge, not destroyed enemies, not even justice served. Just peace. Hard-won, blood-bought, but real. And that was worth more than all the billions she'd ever earn. The end. What did you think of Chioma's journey? Would you have handled the betrayal differently? We want to hear from you. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Have you experienced domestic betrayal or infidelity in your own life? How did you overcome it? This story shows us that even in our darkest moments, we can rise again stronger than before. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more powerful African stories about resilience, revenge, and redemption, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next gripping tale. Thank you for watching from wherever you are in the world, whether you're in Lagos, New York, London, or anywhere else. Your support means everything. Comment below where you're watching from and what story you'd like to hear next. Remember, family isn't always blood. Real family is loyalty, love, and standing strong together through betrayal and beyond. Until next time, stay strong, stay blessed, and never forget your worth. Hashtag African stories, hashtag betrayal story, hashtag revenge story, hashtag Nigerian drama, hashtag cheating spouse, hashtag family betrayal, hashtag women empowerment, hashtag African marriage, hashtag Lagos stories, hashtag domestic betrayal. Retriclod can make mistakes.